I begin with sincere apologies for this delay. For generally they say politicians come late, but today a scholar, a Swamiji, has come so late, and I cannot blame traffic or this or that. We have to actually plan for all that. Therefore, sincerely from the bottom of my heart, to all of you students and to the management, I offer my apologies. But without wasting any more time on those things, we shall plunge into the topic proper, and we have this theme, Choiceless Awareness. Choiceless. When we were caught in traffic, I was thinking I am caught in helpless awareness. I was aware of all the traffic around and helpless. But today our topic is Choiceless Awareness. I should not get too much into humor, because when we are engaging with certain lofty topic, humor, though generally welcome, can be a very distracting factor. You suddenly lose the grip on, a beautiful line of thought. Therefore, I shall restrain myself from humor only where it is most appropriate, maybe a little bit. So, I am confident. I can see all of your faces so bright and very eager to listen to me, and that gives me new energy also. So, with much confidence that you will be with me as I try to touch upon certain aspects of this very lofty theme. Generally, human mind, that is your mind, my mind, everybody's mind, a villager's mind, or even mind of somebody in a metropolis or in Manhattan, in New York or whatever, the human mind generally is so much into what can I do about this, how I can control something, how I can pull or push, how I can modify. This is how the human mind works. In contrast, we have an expression which itself is daunting. The expression itself makes us wonder what this could be all about. Choiceless awareness. In fact, I will read for you a line from Krishnamurti himself, who said, there are three parts in this statement. If you begin to understand what you are, first part. If you begin to understand what you are, now second part is, without trying to change it. If you begin to understand what you are, without trying to change it, the last part is, then what you are undergoes a transformation. This is, once more I would use the word daunting. Therefore, it has been rightly said by nearer, correct, if I go far, so I should be aware of these things too. So, it has been rightly said that J Krishnamurti, with all the controversies in the general popular mind about him, popularly people think, oh, he is an idol breaker. Not idol breaker physically, he is called an iconoclast. Iconoclast is a synonym of idol breaker. He is known for breaking concepts. He is known for breaking various ideas people have. If I do this, I will reach there, and so on. He shakes you up. In that sense, J Krishnamurti has been called an iconoclast, an idol breaker. In spite of all the controversies around him, he is also regarded by maybe a small number who are able to appreciate him. He has been regarded as a challenge to the best minds in the world. Very, very deep thinkers, scientists, in his own time, he engaged in conversations with people like David Bohm. David Bohm was a physicist in England, and about whom Einstein had said, if there are 3 or 4 people in the whole world who have understood me fully, Bohm is one of them. So this is the tribute Einstein had given to Bohm. And David Bohm had number of dialogues with J Krishnamurti, and his statement here goes, if you begin to understand what you are without trying to change it, that without trying to change it actually is what is choiceless, and sometimes a better word for that, without trying to change it, is passive. As I began my talk, generally every one of us believe in being active, especially about young people like all of you. The whole society expects you to be active. In fact, older people like me, suppose, are active, society either openly or whispering behind my back would say, it would be nice if he slows down a little bit. You know, once I taught some physics in Varanasi in a Krishnamurti school, you know, and I went excited. I went from one side of the room to the other explaining physics. I have a science background. I thought everybody would be very happy. I'm sure some were happy. But one boy was open enough to tell me later on, sir, it was nice, but why did you dance about so much? Then I began to restrain myself a little. Because you know, with a white beard and all those things, if you people do that, people will appreciate it. So coming back, action, you know, active is generally regarded as wonderful. But here comes the thought-provoking expression, passive awareness, choiceless. That is, you are understanding and you are not hastily trying to modify it. So this is really something that requires some proper attention. So I would say that this choiceless awareness is a certain deep topic with due respect to a life of activity. You go to any management gurus, they will say, like some of you may have heard about a book, very popular book, bestseller, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I had the privilege of meeting that author, Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey wrote that book, and it's a very good book. Stephen Covey defined 7 habits of you and me being effective. And the first habit is be proactive. Don't wait for somebody to do something. Ask, what is it I can do? And do it. Be proactive. Don't be reactive. Today, weather is not good, and then postpone things. Or someone did not respond well and you react. I was very disappointed with their response, etc. That is called being reactive. But Covey explains, be proactive. But here is the teaching, be passive. Now don't be passive in your mundane day-to-day activities. So suppose this evening you are rolling up your sleeves, you are going to start some studies or something with great enthusiasm. After hearing my talk, Swami Chidananda was there. He said, hold on, don't be active, be passive. Please don't this evening, suppose it's a study plan you have a book of philosophy in front. Let me look at this book with passive awareness. Please don't do that. That will be, seriously speaking, what is called mixing up contexts. When you are listening to classical music, it is important that you are very silent and you appreciate. I don't know much music, but when listening to classical music, which has its own technicalities, one is silently noticing. Whereas in the bazaar, when you have to buy some vegetables quickly and the person is quoting very high figure, there the context is different. You will have to say, देखो ज़्यादा समय वेस्ट मत करो, 10 रुपये में दोगे कि नहीं बताओ, हाँ या ना बताओ. You have to be active. So there are times where you ought to be active, there are contexts, there are situations where every one of us, old or young, have to be active. We should not mix up those scenarios with this scenario or this context where, you know what the context here is? Classical music was an analogy I gave. The context here is trying to understand ourselves deeply. Generally, when I am, let's say, drawn to something attracts me, superficially, maybe it is the beauty of that object or person, maybe it is the richness, maybe it is the price, the value. You know, somebody says, look at this car, it costs 60 lakhs of rupees, okay. I say, oh really, wait a minute. You know. Now, the price, the looks, some such thing, superficially. But on a deeper level, this will be easy for you to see. Apart from the value of the car, 60 lakhs of rupees, if I am attracted to that and I stand and watch for some time, it is clear that I have a extra value for expensive things. In fact, somebody else, moment he hears it is 60 lakhs, हमारे बस की बात नहीं है, मुझे कोई इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं है. You know, if there is an exhibition of luxury cars, most of us won't go there because we can't buy it anyhow. Now, if there is somebody who values high style living and has some prospect of buying, etc., so it's an inner value. A politician comes and some of you are very eager to hear him, let us say, you know. Some others are not interested. Why was a politician called? Now, it also throws some light on certain inner beliefs and inner values. You know. An American is going to address us. It's on the notice board. Some of us may be excited. You know, somebody from Stanford University has been called by the college. You know, you're excited. And then you read the whole notice. And then it says so and so, and a typical, you know, Keshav Sathe from Stanford University. Then your spirits are a little down. ये स्टैनफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी में पढ़ा रहे हैं बोले, लेकिन केशव साठे, and then in his little one paragraph about him, you know, he has studied in SIES College. अच्छा यही का? Now, really speaking, how does it matter whether it is Keshav Sathe, SIES? You know, once he is in Stanford, he is a professor there, you got to value it. But now you realize that while partly I value some excellence, some eminence, because Stanford or Cambridge or any esteemed university stands for a certain excellence, caliber. Partly I value caliber, but partly I have a certain fancy for foreigners. In place of Keshav Sathe, if it was some William Johnson or some such name, you know, Mary something, I want to hear her, you know. So that shows that we have a subconscious mind, that we have urges, we have certain likes and dislikes, we have some fancies, and sometimes very erudite, very learned people also have silly prejudices, maybe about color of skin, maybe about height. Somebody tall walks in, a speaker like me may pause for a moment. 6-footer. Maybe, you know, in spite of all my Krishnamurti knowledge, Vedanta knowledge and Ramana Maharshi knowledge, etc., I do have some knowledge, you know. I haven't walked out of a childhood inferiority complex that I am only 5 feet 4 inches and in my class there are boys who are 5'6", 5'8", 6. You know, to walk out of a certain complex, feeling superior or feeling inferior, feeling intimidated by the very look, you know, is not easy. Just by reading books and writing books also, you don't get out of complexes. So passive awareness or choiceless awareness is an attempt to understand the operation of thought to understand the operation of our mind on certain deeper levels. Do I have prejudices based on, like I said, color of skin, or somebody's religion, or somebody's mother tongue, or somebody whether he is from North India or South India? First step is to be aware, and choiceless awareness requires that we notice it without trying to change it. Another statement that I may quote at this point, which personally for me was full of great impact many years ago. There was a time in the 80s, though I once heard J Krishnamurti, I did not understand anything. On the contrary, leave alone understanding, whenever he made some criticism or raised doubt about Guru or God, I went on the defensive. I think he has not studied Gita properly. Somebody should have taught him religion. Annie Besant made a mistake. She took him away to England or somewhere. So he missed a great chance to read something, one of our formal religions. Like that I went on a defensive. But then another 10 years passed before I began to understand. So one of the statements which hit me and appealed to me a lot is this, which I am quoting. In one of his books it was said, to see what is transforms it. To see what is transforms it. I read it second, third time. First I thought some word may be missing in this. To see what is transforms it. And with my mathematics background, it sounded like having a certain mathematical precision. See, in maths, though some of you may be art students, philosophy students, in maths you have something called function. For example, function 1, function 2, function 3, f1, f2, f3. And there is a variable x. f1 of x is 2x plus 3. f2 of x is 3x plus 3. Equations. What it means is, whatever x may be the value of some object, x may be the age of somebody, x is a variable. You subject it to a function, then if x is subjected to f1, it is 2x plus 2 will be the outcome. So like a process. And here it is said to see. So seeing is like a function. To see what is transforms it. ठीक है, अच्छी बात है. But what is this seeing? Interestingly, it is not doing. Without doing anything. In lot of physical processes, chemical processes, in hundreds of other kinds of processes, you do something, then something happens. Right? Here, Krishnaji, as they used to call J Krishnamurti, Krishnaji makes a flabbergasting statement. To see what is transforms it. In a way, it's not different from what I read earlier, the earlier statement also. If you begin to understand what you are without trying to change it, what you are changes. Here, let me clarify for those who might not have got that little bit. What you are here is once more the likes and dislikes, the fear and hurt, the insecurity, the psychological stuff. What you and I are in this present context is the inside of us where there may be an old hurt. When I joined a Vedanta ashram in your own Bombay in Powai, I had a classmate, very nice fellow, without being long on it. He said to me, I am from Orissa, I went to Puri and asked the Shankaracharya there, I want to learn the Vedas. And the Shankaracharya or the Brahmins there said to me, are you a Brahmin? Show your sacred thread. And I was not a Brahmin, I am not a Brahmin. I said, I am not a Brahmin. And the Shankara Mutt in Puri, in Orissa, said to me, we can't teach you Vedas. I came home very angry, very hurt. And in a few years, I came to know that here is a Chinmaya mission which teaches Vedas to anybody. Foreigners, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, ladies, men, they don't even ask any question. I was very happy. That is how I am here, he said. Well, it is nice. He and I studied together for 2 years. But eventually it so happened that he really didn't have much interest in philosophy. He did not have much interest in Vedanta or any such thing. But he was hurt by a comment. We won't teach you because you are not a Brahmin. So that was working on him. So he fulfilled it by so-called studying. He hardly studied. In fact, through the 2 years I saw, he was not catching much of the teachings there at all. He couldn't do well in most of the subjects. But he was a good person. And later on, to complete the story, he hardly lasted 6 months in the work of Chinmaya mission. After 6 months, he resigned and went away. His heart was not in philosophy. Now, in his case, it was one form of hurt. In your case, my case, various other forms. Therefore, to exercise this choiceless awareness, really I am using a word exercising, it's not a machine that you really exercise, but in a manner of saying, this choiceless exercise actually helps us see the inside of us, and inside us, you may not believe, throughout the world the human mind is pretty much the same. Superficially, you and I do this. We sometimes say, the Marwadis, they are like this. And these Palghat Ayers, they are like this. And Jewish people, they are like this. Muslims, they are like this. These people from such and such country, they are like this. Sorry, you cannot generalize really. In a part of our mind we know we cannot generalize, but we tend to generalize everywhere. The human mind, though there may be sometimes just a little greater possibility, of somebody having certain skill, but the possibility of him being different from what we thought he was is much larger. So as we grow, as we become more mature philosophically, one of the qualities that we find in ourselves is we are not judgmental. To judge is necessary in certain contexts. Suppose you are on an interview panel and 20 candidates came for a particular job. You are put on the panel. But at the end of it you say, I decided on my recent birthday not to be judgmental. For me, all these 20 candidates are God's children. For me, they are all equally good. Now, the others will select one of the candidates and they will deselect you from any more interview panels. Or even in physical matters, you go to buy vegetables, or you want to join a college, I don't want to be judgmental. Some college, somewhere, that won't do. But then, please see the difference. To select a college, to select a course of study, to select some vegetables, to select a candidate in an interview, etc. is one thing, but just by hearing somebody's name, Keshav Sate, ये लोकल है, स्टैनफोर्ड से आ रहे हैं लेकिन यहीं से कोई गए थे, just by name or just by looks, just by dress, etc. that is very different, because the name, the dress and some external things are no sign of what the person is inside. Therefore, it not only applies to others, but even to ourselves. Suppose you and I try to do something and we fail. Generally we tend to jump to a conclusion. Wherever I go, I fail. I have been unlucky. Maybe that 7.5 years of some shani is running in my life. Something or the other we say. But you know what? Where choiceless awareness comes, it is very closely linked to non-judgmental approach. You say that, yeah, I failed, everybody laughed, I became the laughing stock of the town. However, hold on, this failure in this particular enterprise is not everything. Life is, whether my life or her life or his life is much more than any particular enterprise. Somebody fails in business, somebody fails in romance, somebody fails in trying to become a writer or speaker. Now business is an important thing, but everybody doesn't have to be businessman. Romance is part of life, everybody's life, certain romance takes place, but life is much more than this relationship or that relationship. Life is much more, you name it, life is much more than all of those even put together. Life is such vastness, life is such infinite spread. Who was that? Some Deepak Chopra. He made a statement. Life or the universe is a space of infinite possibilities. The universe is a space of infinite possibilities. Every one of us is a space of infinite possibilities. I failed in business, I failed in romance, I failed in becoming a writer or something, I failed in sports, I failed in politics. Oh my God, 5 areas I failed. But life is not even 500 areas, not even 5,000. Life is infinite, and therefore failure in these 5 isn't much. In order to put them in perspective and not get dejected, one needs to hold back, and as the topic this afternoon goes, one has to notice very carefully. Is it the failure in business that has depressed me, or is it an attachment I have to my own image? You and I sometimes, almost everybody carries an image. Anybody can fail, but not me. Anybody can make a fool of himself, but not me. If some boy goes to a girl and tries to befriend her, and if she turns away, that's fun to watch. If I go to a girl and say, hi, shall we go for a walk together? And she doesn't even look at me fully, mind your business, suppose she says. I am taken aback. Why? Is it the girl refusing to have a little chat with me that has hurt me? Or is it an attachment I have to an image of mine? I cannot be rejected. I cannot be let down. Why? Because I am I. I have an image. So, such things don't come out so easily. In order to understand or to figure out, in order to come face to face with certain deep attachments, I want to become somebody that the whole town takes note of. I want to become somebody famous, popular, etc. is a major hang-up, if I may use a colloquial word, a hang-up. Hang-up means you are caught in that. Perhaps it is derived from maybe context. A certain fancy, hooks you and hangs you up, probably. A hang-up. So somebody wants to become famous. Somebody wants to become popular. Somebody wants to be regarded as, powerful. Do you really need it, or is that a hang-up? You wouldn't know by simply analyzing, simply discussing with somebody in intellectual ways. Interestingly, though the topic today, choiceless awareness, comes across as a little bit intellectually challenging topic, there is of course a certain intellectual height in it, intellectual substance in it, but the topic proper, essentially, it is not intellectualism. More than a professor, an exalted professor of an esteemed university, more than such a person, a simple-minded person will be able to have choiceless awareness. Because a professor who has published many books, some of which have become textbooks for students like all of you, that professor every day goes through many fears, many anxieties. Somebody in Cambridge, somebody in MIT, somebody, let us say, in Singapore University or somewhere. You and I sitting in Mumbai envy him. One day I hope I will sit in that chair. Human mind, all of us, But that person is deeply hurt that somebody else was promoted, somebody else was called to some conference, somebody else's name appeared in some publication. That professor has his own sorry tale to tell. So I would once more say, choiceless awareness would be very difficult for those who succumb to hurt, who stay in the quagmire or in morass of hurt. A certain incident happened, let us say, 5 years ago, but even today in 2019, as you are entering the college, you sigh deeply and your friend asks, what happened? What happened in 2014, I am unable to take out of my system. That's how they say. I am unable to take it out of my system. And your friend, who has nothing better to do, asks you, what happened in 2014? Then you say, you have time, let us sit down. How you say, it was late evening, and I think December, and so on and so forth. 2015 में कुछ हुआ था, 14 में जो भी हो, और अब आप then choiceless awareness is difficult because you are into external details. What day it was, who was walking on the road, who said what I said, what I should have said, repeatedly they are coming. Whereas the choiceless awareness requires a certain emotional maturity, not the scholarship that is required to become a professor at Singapore or in California, but a certain emotional maturity. And emotional maturity is nothing to do with the absence of emotions. In fact, if you have no emotions, that's the problem. When there is some humor, suppose you don't laugh, or when there is something very sad, suppose you don't feel sad at all. A child is run over by a truck, and you say, oh, a child is run over by a truck. Then there is a problem with you. If you are a normal human being, something tragic like that would shock you. You would be so, though that child, you don't know whose child it is, but you will be shocked. So, there are what are called healthy emotions. Healthy emotions actually are normal or the wealth of yours. But when we say emotionalism, it is ill-placed, overstretched emotional behavior. Then choiceless awareness is difficult. When you have greater broad-mindedness, when you have greater, as we earlier called it, non-judgmental outlooks, or judgments rise. Even somebody like me who talks on non-judgmentalism finds that judgmentalism or judgments rise. Like I made a selected confession. If somebody tall comes in here and something gets said about him, then a certain, oh really? he is so accomplished, I seem to be a little behind, I am nowhere near him. Such thoughts come in my mind also. So if you have some judgmental thoughts, that itself is not a problem. But the question is, do you go with them? Do you get carried away by them? A judgmental thought came where you judge that guy as, wow, he is so accomplished. And you judged yourself, I may not achieve it in this life. So you put yourself down and you put him upright. That's okay. But there is another question. Do you hang on to that thought for quite some time to come? That evening also, during your evening walk, if you have you do the walk. Today, I met that guy and once more I am convinced my life is a waste. Suppose that is called stretching, right? You cling to a judgment by looks, by name, etc. You, because of some old habit, a certain judgment may arise. But if you shake it off, if you say, I used to do that, now life has taught me, just by looks and just by name and just by dress, it's just not right to come to a conclusion. Let me check, let me get to know that person. Same way about oneself. So this requires not scholarship, but it requires certain emotional and intellectual maturity, not the ability to grasp a lot of information. If you want to be a writer of many books, you got to have a lot of knowledge. If you want to be a professor, you got to have access to number of things. You can't say the same thing in every class, students will walk away. But choiceless awareness and the deep inner change is totally different. It's not about rising on this ladder of academic positions. One becomes a dean and one becomes a head of department, one becomes professor, this, that, and finally a national level, let us say, as anybody among us. I'm giving academic examples because right now all of you are going through an academic program. So is the case with the corporate world also. So there may be number of books in the market, how to win, how to influence people, how to become a good leader. They have a place of their own. But we are not talking about that kind of becoming somebody. We are talking about something totally in a different domain, and that's not unrelated. In fact, that is more related to life. Whether you become somebody well known or not many know you, you would primarily want peace. You would primarily want happiness. You would primarily want freedom from conflict, freedom from contradictions. There is a little WhatsApp video which did the rounds. Some of you might have got it. A lady suddenly meets another lady who at one time used to work at her home as a maid and says, "Hey Mary, how are you doing? What is happening? And how is that little son of yours?" And that other lady, who was at once a servant maid in this lady's house, says, "Oh, so nice, we are meeting again. That little one is no more little one. He is grown up now. He is married also. But what does he do? He is a janitor. He is one of these, people cleaning the places and all that. Nothing much to mention. And what are you doing? I was working as a maid in your house those days. Now I am working at some other house," etc. she says. So far the video is as though this second lady is way down. The first one is, rich with a pearl necklace and so on. Last part of the video is interesting. Her husband comes, this rich lady's husband, and yells at her, "It's getting late. What are you? You're wasting time with who is this with whom you are talking?" And she says, "She used to work at our home, you remember? That husband is utterly impatient. So what? We will be missing our appointment. And makes such a face. At the end of the video it shows who is more fortunate. The rich lady, of course, is in a so-called respectable position, and perhaps the appointment also is with some highly placed big fellows in some party, and the poor one, her son also is not much to mention, but in the dialogue, I didn't say all the sentences, I don't remember, but the poor lady says, yeah, my son is married, I am a grandmother now, and we are living peacefully. They have peace in their hearts. So if you and I are concerned in the entire matter called life, if you are concerned with freeing our bosom from sorrow, from jealousy, from ideas or notions of I have failed in life, I couldn't make it, she made it and he made it, but I couldn't make it at all. Now not many days are left in my life. Oops. In this way, who wants this? If we want to be free of the pressure of those memories, the pressure of those questionable judgments, I call them questionable conclusions, then this is the one. This ability to once in a while, you may ask me some practical question. This choiceless awareness, that means we need to understand, we need to notice how the thoughts are operating. You mean we have to do this 24 hours? No, don't make it like that. It is not some kind of technique or it is not some kind of practice. Moment you increasingly understand the value of this, here and there, for a minute here or for 2 minutes over there, and you don't know where, maybe under a shower, maybe in the most unexpected place, in a noisy place, and not during a lecture or not while reading a book, maybe when somebody behaves rudely with you, you are embarrassed, but quite possibly in the backdrop of what you have understood of these certain revelations. So these are some observations. These are some comments made by great minds. Here we are especially referring to J Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti made some observations about human life. They are far-reaching. And some of us, let us say, were able to figure out what it is. That will act. Somebody was rude to you. Normally you would have sunk in despair and felt very bad. You are feeling bad, but even as you are feeling bad, a part of you operates automatically by itself. It says, okay, she said this, I am very hurt, but what actually is this hurt? ये दर्द है क्या? मेरे अंदर जो हो रहा है वो है क्या? Without even words. In a lecture I am explaining it using words. But in actuality, some of you who have got the sense of what this is might notice, and you will come upon a certain understanding. And that anger or that embarrassment is bound to disappear. In fact, a moment ago you are so angry with that man or with that lady. Now in this understanding, you will feel sympathy for that person. And you will have a certain sympathy and compassion for yourself also. But you are as though above everything else. So, countless are the possibilities, but I know 12:30 all of you have to get going. I will conclude my talk saying, when you and I, rather than acting mechanically, acting instinctively, rather than acting impulsively, with a certain silence within us, we notice the way thought operates, then there can take place a deeper change, a wholesome, healthy change in us. That is the transformation which can be a great blessing to you and me, and when we change, it is a great blessing to people around us. more than the money that we may have and which we may share also sometimes, more than the knowledge that we have in our brain which we may share through speaking and writing, etc. The peace that you and I may have in our heart will be a greater blessing to people around us at home or anywhere. Saying this, I conclude. Probably one or two questions we could be taking. I am at fault, I came late, otherwise there would I. If you want to ask something? No, somebody? Yes, go ahead.
Sir, I had a very teenage question for you to ask, if you don't mind.
No.
There's a radar set in our minds these days because of applications on like Instagram and Facebook, that you have to look a certain way, or you have to, if I'm jail or if my hair looks a certain way, only then is when I'm perfect. But as you spoke about awareness, I feel like there are many people who are not aware about themselves and their individuality and want to fit into the shoes of other girls or boys who they think do better than them.
Right.
So how is that awareness, how can that awareness come inside one that I'm an individual with my own individuality and I don't have to go into that position?
Right. So really speaking, please sit. It's a wonderful practical question. So here also, when you don't react instinctively because somebody disliked or somebody made a comment, we could react instinctively. Oh, I'm sad to know that, or we may get angry. Who is he to question my looks and so on? These are all, mechanical reactions. We take note, we take cognizance of people making some comments, and if we go about it a bit carefully, we will be able to distinguish genuine comments and comments based on prejudice. Suppose you put your picture and somebody says, I think you are a Hindu girl and you should be putting a bindi. No, that is her conditioning. That is his conditioning. You will be able to see clearly. I just offhand gave a simple example. You will say, well, that is, I don't have to, That is in our mothers and grandmothers generation there used to be certain pressure. So, you will be able to see that certain things emanate, some comments arise from deep-rooted prejudice or conditioning which some people may have. Whereas somewhere else, suppose somebody made a comment, I walk into a party and somebody said, you did not, your clothes were not ironed, your hair was disheveled, and okay, that is your affair. When we got close to you, you are a little foul smelling also. Now when we think about it, this is my opinion, that foul smelling part is not just your own personal affair, others are affected by it. If you don't iron your clothes, if you don't comb your hair, okay, no problem. But if your clothes are foul smelling and everybody keeps a distance, then that is insensitivity on my part. Therefore, what is genuine, rooted in universal values? To be presentable, I don't have to look the smartest man, but I should look presentable. People should not, feel, I don't know, sometimes it could be anything, There was a humorous whole movie in which an Indian boy, after his BTech or whatever, undergraduate degree, is in an American university. He is a teaching assistant. And he is bright. Indians, Indians have no shortage of brightness. And he is teaching some engineering subject, I guess. And having gone to America, he has become a free bird now. He is putting his one foot upon a stool and explaining the Maxwell's equations, the electromagnetic waves, the electric component, the magnetic component, and he is going full steam. That humorous movie shows that in his pants, the zip is open. Thank God he has some underwear. And the movie shows, I forgot the name of the movie, made by some Indians, The white girls, black girls, Indian boys and girls, all are there. It's a cosmopolitan. And even some of the white girls see it and they just, They just look down. Nobody makes a comment. Now that is not acceptable. That HOD himself that day may say to him, young man, we are very happy with your teaching. You have come all the way from India and you are teaching very well, your knowledge and your communication. But be a little mindful about the zip of your pants. So like that you can distinguish. Yeah, it's up to you, So one should not get carried away. Did you have?
Sir, I would like to start with, it's nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Be in the same room as you. So, I am on a journey to find myself.
Yes.
So, the influence you have on me,
Yeah.
is it a hindrance or is it a milestone in my path?
Wonderful, wonderful. The influence that the speaker has on the young man, is it helpful or is it a hindrance?
Yes.
Correct? To be frank, it's a mixture. To be frank, it's a mixture. And time alone will tell you. It depends on your mindset also. Because among audience, there could be a person who loves or likes some speaker and becomes so dependent on him, just wants to follow him, loses his head or her head. Then it would be terrible. But if you are someone whose mindset is not so weak, you appreciate, but at places you also question. You already questioned, I like it.
Pardon my interruption, sir.
No problem, no problem.
I always find myself sitting on the fence.
Okay.
Always in the middle of two things. So, am I right?
I don't know whether you are right, but I can tell you are not wrong. Because sitting on fence means you are yet to come to a conclusion.
Yes.
Right? So that is in fact one element of broad-mindedness. In my lecture several times I said, by seeing somebody's dress, by hearing somebody's name, by coming to know her mother tongue, etc. Suppose I jump one side of the fence. If she is Telugu speaking, she must be a wonderful young lady. What has Telugu got to do with goodness of person, right? So fence sitting can mean not jumping to conclusion, which is good. But if you stretch it,
even bad.
Yeah, it can be bad. Who was that? There was Immanuel Kant, I think, a European philosopher. One young lady knocked at his door once. I have been hearing your lectures at the nearby college last 7 days. I love you, sir. I would like to marry you, she said. Okay. Now, this was said by Osho, Rajneesh, in one of his books. Immanuel Kant was a Pakka philosopher. He said, please give your address. In 3 days, I will write to you whether I am ready to marry you. Then he forgot about it. 7 years passed. And he met her again after 7 years. She was already married with some children. But he recognized her. Are you not the woman who came 7 years back to my door? Yes, but you didn't write a letter to me at all. But I have decided to marry you. She called, Chinnu, Munnu, come here. So that is stretching, Your broad-mindedness or your being open should not be endless indecision. There are time-bound things, where you have to give a decision. Those of you who have to go to another class, please feel free to move. Some of you may not have any engagement. I leave it to the coordinator. How do we? Yeah. One last question? One more last question.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Sir, a philosopher in the 21st century who was trying to pursue as objective.
One moment, there is some ambient noise from Ganapati, I think. Just restart. A philosopher?
Philosopher in the 21st century who is trying to pursue the truth as objectively as it is.
Correct.
And has gained certain knowledge. Will he be completely able to deliver it to others without indulging in any conventional?
See, the philosopher himself is a human being. So, though he has the utmost sincerity to approach truth objectively, his own being human will come into the picture. No human being is free really from some bias, some affiliation, some subscription. There are people who say those who believe in this God or that God have a certain bias. Those who don't believe in any God have their own bias. So it's difficult to say whether that is bias or no bias. Somebody says, I don't believe in any God or any religion. So can we say that person is free of bias? Difficult really. So to your question whether that person can deliver to today's needs, not really. He will be able to cheer up, he will be able to give, show light to some section of humanity. Humanity needs are so various, so diverse. So no single teacher can satisfy all humanity. But as you described a certain philosopher in the 21st century having certain objective approach, he will do a lot of good. A good number of people would see some light by discussing with him, maybe with a little bad influence also. But no one can really say this is the solution for all humanity. That is a utopian idea. Thank you. I have thoroughly enjoyed discussing or interacting with you.